Hello, can you hear me? Hi, welcome in. Ohayou gozaimasu. Welcome, welcome, welcome in, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Happy wherever you guys are. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for the follow, Rattleman. I really appreciate it. You're now part of my haggis. Come on. Okay, don't worry, I'm gonna start saying hello to everybody, but if you haven't made yourself known, I won't call you out. I try not to spy on my chat no matter how much I really want to, because I am a stinky haggis. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, it's me, Isla. Camarage. Fellow, my name is Isla. How are you all doing today? Honey Gucci, welcome in, welcome in. Jelly, here with the 225 consecutive streams. Holy shit. Hi, Mito. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Rab. Welcome in, welcome in. Hi, Rabaman. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Majin. Welcome in, welcome in. Alexis, welcome. Godsyphilis, welcome in. Welcome. The crazy Scotsman. Oi, oi, hello. Hello, hello. Alright, welcome in. I don't know why I went English there for the crazy Scotsman. Hello, 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 governor. That was like the stupidest thing ever. I hate myself. Oh,
this was going to be a long day, and I was right. The waiting room had a little bookshelf with some used hardcovers on it. When I stood up to walk to the bookshelf, it felt like my legs barely worked. It's not that they were weak, they were just slow. It took a full minute just to stand up off the couch, and another minute to take 2 steps to the bookcase. I scanned the old books on the shelf and picked up a copy of Moby Dick. My arms had listener. As accelerated as my brain was, I couldn't do anything to make my legs work faster. The huge disconnect between my body and mind made it extremely difficult to judge how and when to slow down, turn, or rotate my body. I had basically turned into a giant slow-motion spaz. I misjudged my speed and rammed into a wall by the elevator button at a pretty good speed, even though I could see the wall coming at me. I couldn't make my finger outstretched to hit the elevator button move away fast enough and jammed it against the wall. Hard. The pain was intense. If my brain had been running at regular speed, it probably only would have hurt for 30 seconds or so, but my accelerated state, the intense pain seemed to last for half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. The elevator ride was horrible. It felt like I spent 4 or 5 hours just descending 7 floors, with nothing to look at but the interior of the elevator car. I sprinted to the metro station. I have to admit, this part was almost fun, even though my body moved at what seemed to me super slow speed. I despite being awake for what I perceived as days, my physical brain still thought it was 1:25 p.m. It was not ready for sleep. Nevertheless, I tried to sleep. I walked to my bedroom, a slow 45-minute drift through my apartment, and flung myself into the bed, lazily falling like a feather into the mattress. I closed my eyes and lay there for hours and hours, 10 minutes of reality time, before giving up. Sleep would not come. I was facing what was going to feel like days or maybe even weeks of being trapped in a slow-motion prison. So, I took an Ambien. The sensation of the pill and the splash of the water I used to swallow it sliding. My throat was sickening. A lump that blocked my breathing, moving like a slug down my esophagus. I read a book. 10 minutes had passed. I read another. 18 minutes since I took the Ambien. I threw the book across the room in disgust at my situation. The book slowly protruded and spun through the air like a leaf blowing in the breeze. It hit the wall with a long, faint rumble. The only sound I had heard for what seemed like hours. Then drifted to the floor like a flip-flop, sinking in a swimming pool. The force of gravity hadn't changed since I took the pill. The laws of physics were the same. It was just my perception of the time that had gone wackadoo. This meant I could use the speed things seemed to fall as a way of judging the effects of the drug. Based on how long it took the book to drift to the floor, I estimated the effects of the drug were still intensifying. I read a magazine. I turned on television. I clearly saw each frame of video like I was watching a slideshow. Frustrated, I turned the television off. I read some more. The first two books of Churchill's A History of English-Speaking Peoples. Not exactly a light read. Frankly, I hated it. But given the hours of tedium it would take to go get another book off my bookshelf, just sitting on the couch and reading Churchill was better, or at least less worse. It had been 35 minutes since I took an Ambien. I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes. Time passed. I inhaled. An hours-long process. Time passed. I exhaled for more hours. Sleep would not come. I needed a new plan. I decided to go back to the office where they gave me the drug. Maybe they would have something that could counteract its effects, or at least something to knock me out until it wore off. I exited my apartment as fast as possible, taking hours in my time frame to do so. I didn't even bother locking the door. It would have taken too long. Down the stairs is faster than the elevator if you run. Through the lobby, out the front door, into the street. These few things felt like a long day at the office. Sprinting down the street, dancing and weaving between the pedestrians with what must have looked like them superhuman dexterity, down the first flight of stairs at the metro, across the landing. Another hour. Then on the second flight of stairs. That's when the Ambien hit me. Oh no. The Ambien didn't make me sleepy. Not at all. Instead, it must have had a severe cross-reaction with the experimental drug I took this morning. I was bounding down the second flight of stairs, moving in slow motion, but still making perceptible progress. Then wham! Everything stopped. The dull roar of the street and metro noise ceased, replaced by the most perfect silence I've ever experienced. My downwards motion seemed to completely freeze. Before the Ambien kicked in, my perception perception of time was maybe a few hundred times slower than real time. After the ambient took effect, time moved thousands of times slower. Every second seemed like days to me. Even just moving my eyes to focus on a new point was like an impossibly slow scroll across my visual field. Over the course of the afternoon, I learned how to walk, run, and jump, when my mind ran hundreds of times faster than my body, but with another 4 or 5 orders of magnitude of slow down caused by the ambient. Body control was almost impossible. I fell on the stairs. Even though I was all but frozen in mid-step, controlling my muscles was impossible. I commanded my foot forwards for hours, then backwards for hours. More when it seemed like I would miss the next step. Hours attempting to adjust the angle of my ankle, then readjusting when it felt wrong. Despite these efforts, I rolled my ankle on the next step. The pain wasn't at all mitigated by the slowness. Hours of increasing strain on my bent ankle. The nerve signals that send pain into my brain must work differently than the nerves in my ear. Sonic energy was spread out over time, diluted until it was imperceptible. Pain flowed into my brain, undiluted by the change in my perception of time. Hours and hours of increasing weight on my turned ankle turned into hours of increasing pain upon increasing pain. I pitched forward, my high-speed mind completely unable to control my low-speed body. I drifted downwards for days, managing to rotate my torso enough to keep my head from impacting on the ground first. I eventually landed on my right shoulder. At first, the impact wasn't even noticeable. Then I felt a slight pressure in my shoulder as it came in contact with the ground. The pressure grew, bringing increasing pain for hour upon hour. My shoulder finally gave out, popping out of its socket with an endless, sickening tug. I came to a stop days later, crumpled into the ground, staring at the ceiling, the pain in my shoulder still screaming with the intensity of a fresh, violent injury. I had plenty of time to think during that fall. If every second seemed like days to me, then each minute of real-world time would be like years. Even if the drug cleared out of my system in the next 2 or 3 hours, this nightmare would seem like centuries. By the time I hit the ground, I had a plan. I would somehow get to the platform and throw myself in front of a train. I twisted onto my hands and knees, days of my dislocated shoulder crying for relief. I misjudged my rotation and rolled onto my back. I tried again, collapsing into my face, and I tried to figure out how to control my body that moved slower than the grass grew.
Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. And I part my August clan.
extracted my phone from my pocket. A project that spanned decades. How can I even explain the boredom? The pain in my shoulder is nothing compared to the boredom. Every thought I can think, I have thought hundreds of times already. The view of ankles and advertisements never change. Never. The boredom is so intense, it's tangible. Like a solid object of metal and stone wedged into my skull. Inescapable. What are my options? If I crawl and fall onto the tracks without an oncoming train to crush me, I won't die. I'll experience even more pain from the 4-foot fall, but I'll most likely be rescued by some do-gooder on the platform and unable to act when the train finally does arrive. My suffering in that scenario will be endless, so I wait for the train, so I can throw myself under it. When it finally hits me, I will experience the pain of being ripped to pieces for centuries, until finally the light of life leaves my brain and my experience ends. I've lived hundreds of lifespans at the foot of this bench. I'm far older in spirit than any human who has ever lived. Most of my life experience has been snapshots of pain, huddled on the floor of a subway platform with an unchanging view of ankles and advertisements. This post is my plan B, my Hail Mary, my long shot. I spent lifetimes typing and posting this message in hopes that someone will read it and become convinced that my suffering must end. Someone on this platform right now, someone who will find the man curled under the bench, the man who crawled down the escalator, and kill him as swiftly as possible. A bullet to the temple. If you're armed and at Glenmont Metro, please shoot me. That one was recommended by Jellyfish to us, and it was written by Peter Frost David. Very nice, very spoopy, very, very creepy. Welcome in Wet Rob Streams. Yes, I'm Haggis. Agimando, welcome in. Yes, I'm Haggis. Don't worry about it. Hi, you guy, welcome in. Okay, we do have one more that was recommended to us by Jelly. I haven't read this one either. But it should be fun. I'm gonna mute myself for a little second to have a little drink. I'm sorry, I still got a bit of a stuffy nose and sore throat. We got this. Okay, this one is called Stairs. And it is written by someone.
In 1984, there lived an old widowed lady by herself in a two-story house who was completely immobile and bound to her wheelchair. They were just credited as Jack. Okay. Thank you, Jack. In 1984, there lived an old widowed lady by herself in a two-story house who was completely immobile and bound to her wheelchair. Ever since the mysterious death of her husband, she required the aid of a carer who would visit her daily to help her with everyday tasks. What made it even more difficult was the fact that the two floors of the house were only connected by an old staircase inside. When the old lady needed to move between the two, the carer would have to carry her frail body like an infant up and down the stairs. One day the police received a call from a widow. There had been a murder. Since police units were scarce at the time and the murderer had already fled the scene, only one detective was sent out to conduct the initial crime scene report. He arrived to see the carer's body splayed out on the floor, with her vocal cords ripped out in a pool of blood on the first level of the house. The old lady atop the staircase in her wheelchair, watching him, still and silently, seemingly in shock, could immediately rule her out as a suspect due to her inability to move up and down the stairs, and because she was trapped up there at the time the murder took place. It was similar to the death of her husband many years ago, who had suffocated in his sleep on the couch downstairs. The detective put on his gloves and took photos swabbed for evidence that covered the body until the coroner arrived later. All routine business. He scoped the house downstairs for any clues and then asked the old lady if he could look upstairs. She insisted that she was upstairs the whole time and no one apart from her had been up there that day. But regardless of the detective ascended the staircase, with which she hesitantly moved aside. Beyond the staircase there was a narrow corridor with 3 closed doors along it. He cracked behind each of the doors. The empty bedroom, nothing. The bathroom, nothing. He became anxious as he slowly made his way to the final bedroom where the old lady slept. He opened it and everything looked normal. A bed, a wardrobe, a bedside table with a lamp. He checked every wall of the room in the horror, as it was not what he discovered, but it was what he didn't discover that made him stop dead in his tracks and slowly reach for his gun in its holster. It was a detail so minor that they had completely overlooked it on the last investigation of the husband's death. There was no phone upstairs. He suddenly heard a noise as he withdrew his gun and rushed out of the room, only to find an empty wheelchair atop the stairs. Scary, spoopy. That was credited to Jack. Jack wrote it on my god. Yes, creepypastas. Super creepypastas. Super spoopy skeletons. Did anybody ever tell you your voice is really low? Is it? No one tells me. I'm sorry. You want me to up it? Is that better? Nobody tells me these things. Is that better? Are you talking like... Oh. Okay, don't do that. I still have a snotty nose. Yeah, sorry. I've upped it now. Okay.
small number of fans. A small number that includes you. As a child, you love Mr. Bear. You don't care that he broadcasts from his cellar. And then there's something remarkably dark about the way those polished button eyes stare into the camera lens. As a child, you don't see those things. When Mr. Bear suggests you write to him, you jump at the chance when he writes back asking you to visit him. You jump at the chance to. As a child, there are some things you just don't see. You don't see the man beneath the bear suit, or that bears have teeth and claws. As a child, there are some things you don't see, and of course, some things you aren't supposed to. 1999, also sometimes referred to as Mr. Bear's Cellar or Killed in Local 21, is a creepypasta story about a fictional television show. Why are we reading the? Why has it got the overview here? Okay, we're doing the overview. Yeah. It's about a fictional television show. The show, which was kids' television program, is claimed to have shown on public access television, was only available to a very small viewership and tiny geographical area. The story set 10 years after the show was supposed to have gone off the air gives an account of a series which is alleged to have been hosted by a character called Mr. Bear, essentially the man in a bear suit, which was a parody of Bear in the Big Blue House, and something akin to Barney the dinosaur with a bear in place of a purple T-Rex. Hi, Negative, welcome in, welcome in. I'm gonna go past it because it seems like there may be spoilers in the overview, and I don't want that. Yeah, spoilers. I'm gonna do that. The year is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior kindergarten class when I was 5 years old, where we used to read out of date on the blackboard. Read out the date on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a state in my mind, however, is a memory that will not go away no matter how I try to forget it. 1999 marked the year I lost my first tooth, my first time on a plane, and, unfortunately, the early loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be wiped. It all started with that new was always a kid. The show was filmed with a camcorder, and not a very good one either. The police asked me a lot of questions about the show. The episode started with Mr. Bear sitting at a table playing checkers by himself. He sat there playing for a bit until there was a knock on the door. The camera was then looking up the stairs at the door. There was another knock. Mr. Bear climbed on the stairs and opened the door to reveal two young children. One was a boy about my age and the other was a girl who looked about 8. Mr. Bear danced in delight and then started talking to the kids. I couldn't hear any of them that well. I remember Mr. Bear and then led the kids into the cellar, which was quite dark, only lit by a small oil lamp on the table. I can't really remember that much more, except him singing a song, which I couldn't hear too well either, probably because of that large bear mask. The episode ended and then playing hide and seek, with the kids hiding in a closet and Mr. Bear canting. May 1999. Soup and Spoon. I don't think this was even a show. I think it was more of a special movie thing. All I know is I stopped watching Caledon Local 21 for a while because I thought this show was too stupid, especially since Pokemon now came on at 4:30 and 5. I don't remember much of this, but it showed a can of soup and a spoon both attached to strings swinging back and forth as if someone was holding them and dangling them in front of the camera. Interestingly enough, the show was shot in a basement, which looked just like the one used in Mr. Bear's cellar. Like I said, I can't remember much. The only thing I can remember clearly was the end. I don't welcome it. Sorry for my stuffy nose sounds. I still have a bit of a sore throat and stuffy nose. Deal with it. You guys can have my boogers. That's a bit better. Hi, Squall, welcome in. The entire thing was only half an hour, and just included stuff I found stupid, such as the spoon chasing the soup around trying to eat him. The ending showed a table, and about 7 kids sitting around it, each with a bowl of soup in front of them. They were sitting and looking at the camera, but with confused, almost frightened faces. The cameraman then held a can of soup in front of the kids and said, "Spoons ready." And then it just stopped. July 1999. That's my birthday. It was summer, and I hadn't watched Channel 21 for a while until one day when I slept over at my friend's house and I decided to check it out again. My friend had gotten a TV in his room for his 6th birthday, so we stayed up very late. For us, 9:30 p.m. was very late, and watched TV. That's when I remembered Channel 21 and brought it up to my friend. We decided to see if it was on, and to her surprise, it was. I'm not a hunk, I'm a hack. There's a difference. Thank you for the follow, welcome in. Never my hag is glad. Yeah, I am pretty young though, 100%. And for that, I lost the game. You're welcome. They must have changed the broadcasting time. Mr. Bear's Cellar, episode 23. The episode was entertaining for my friend and me, mainly because it had swearing. However, now when I think of this episode, I realize something was definitely wrong when it was filmed. The episode started with the camera on its side while it was facing Mr. Bear, who was walking upstairs to the cellar door. camera then blacked out for about a second before fading in, back upright and facing Mr. Bear. There was also another kid talking to him, but this kid looked about 11 or 12.
Hi, one time. Welcome in. Welcome in.
You had the. Oh my goodness, Dawn, you were so silly.
Oh, goodness.
He was talking to Mr. Bear for a while, but I couldn't hear well. Again, with the crappy camcorder, until the kid started raising his voice. The kid was saying how it was late and his sister had to go home. You could also hear more voices in the background. I remember Mr. Bear clearly saying, "Get the fuck out! You're not invited!" with a deep voice muffled by the bear mask. I remember my friend and I looking at each other and then laughing at the mention of the forbidden F word. But the episode got weirder. The kid began climbing the stairs before turning around and saying how he was going to call the police. Mr. Bear began breaking into a run towards the kid, who started screaming and running as well. The camera then cut out, and that was the end of the episode. The channel then turned to static after. August 1999. I didn't want to watch Channel 21 after that. In August, I grew more curious to see Mr. Bear's cellar for some reason, though. The last episode I saw of Mr. Bear was weird and had swearing, which also made me think the show was meant for teenagers. Nonetheless, I flipped into Channel 21 when my dad was busy. Mr. Bear's cellar, episode 28. Apparently, this episode had been playing the entire month of August. It was studied a lot by the police. The entire episode was just Mr. Bear sitting in a chair talking to the audience. "Hello, kids. Do you want to visit my cellar? If you do, please write me a letter at this address." The screen then switched to a white screen with multicolored letters reading the addresses. And that was what remained for the rest of the episode. This repeated for 5 hours every day until September came. And guess what I actually did? I sent Mr. Bear, or that sick bastard who betrayed him, a letter. I did it out of curiosity mostly. My dad was okay with it because he thought it was a legit kid show, but then again, he never saw any of what was on Channel 21, so I wrote a letter using my best writing possible. I think I just said how I wanted to meet Mr. Bear, so my dad sent the letter to the address Mr. Bear said on the show. It stayed on all day anyway, for some reason. It took about a week to get a response, which I was surprised it did. I still have a letter I received on August 15th, 1999. The letter said, "Dear Elliot, thank you ever so much for your letter. I would love to have you in my cellar. We play games, watch movies, and go fire camping in the middle of the woods. Come to my house at," the police cut out the address, "Caledon, Ontario, Canada. I look very forward to having fun with you. Love, Mr. Bear."
Hi, welcome in, May. I'm currently reading Creepypastas just now, so if you would like to listen to me do Creepypastas, I am very, very happy for you to listen, May. That'd be very nice. You're always welcome to chill with us.
I cannot believe my dad never found this sketchy, because shocked the entire town. My dad actually drove me to the Caledon along with the address Mr. Bear left on his letter. The house was actually in the outskirts of the town, in open farmland. I still remember that house. It looked like an older farmhouse that looked to have been built in the early 1900s. The windows were all boarded up, and the house looked in a state of disrepair. As we walked up to the house, I remember my dad checking the address over and over again and looking at the house in disbelief. Then the doors opened. No, this is Creepypasta. It's currently pinned up above. The name of the Creepypasta is 1999. It's a classic. It's my first time properly reading it though. Smiling Dog, I haven't heard that one, but I'll add it to my list. I like creepypastas and urban legends. They're spoopy. I expected Mr. Bear to be at the door, but I was surprised to see a police officer emerge from the creaking doorway. The officer began talking to my dad whilst I was quickly asked if that was Mr. Bear's house. The officer's face cringed slightly, and he muttered, "Oh, God," or something like that. He started talking quietly to my dad, so I couldn't hear, although my dad told me to go to the car anyway, and then we just went home. My dad was quiet the whole way home. I felt something strange had happened. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. It should be in my links below. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it anyway too. If you click the About bar down below in Twitch, it should take you directly to all my links. The actual little panel that says About is clickable. Most of them are. A lot of them aren't, but you know, some are. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it anyway too. Channel 21 no longer came on, and when I asked about it, my dad would not acknowledge its existence. I think it was then, when I was 13, where I learned the truth. I remember Channel 21 one day and asked my dad about it. I guess he finally decided I should hear the truth. Caledon Local 21 was a local TV channel that ran from October 1997 to August 1999 in the Peel region of Ontario. The entire channel was made from a house, Caledon, the one I visited, and run by a man who was not really known by anyone in the town. The channel was only available to older TVs because the signal was one only picked up by rabbit ears or weaker frequencies. The man created all the shows on the channel, all of which were kid shows. He was Mr. Bear, and he was a mysterious cameraman. The real reason he created the channel was more disturbing than what was originally thought. As you might have already guessed, he was kidnapped kids and held them in a cellar. But while most people thought he was a serial child molester, he really wanted to use the kids for another purpose. The day I arrived, the man had fled his house the night before, the day before the police went in for their investigation. I was the only one who was watching. Watermelon is delicious. Sorry for not answering any questions for so long. This is December 2nd, 2009. Sorry for not answering any questions for so long. I haven't accessed my email account for some time. Anyway, let me finally set things straight about what I know. Back in October, I visited the house previously owned by the man who ran Caledon Local 21. Two women lived there, operating a daycare business. How ironic. Now to answer the question you guys emailed me. Question 1. Who else watched Caledon Local 21? Answer. I know other people watched it for sure, including those kids who wound up at Mr. Bear's house. After some Google searches, I found a few people
I am so sorry. I apologize. I may have completely forgotten that I ordered my cat a plant. I my cat is old and she's indoors, and you know she's getting older and stuff, so she's getting some hair ball trouble. So I thought I would get her that cat grass plant that you can get and the cats can munch on it. And I completely forgot I had ordered one, and yeah, it came currently. Crazy, right? I am so sorry. But yes, I ordered my cat a plant. I am so sorry about that. This is why it's live. You come for the lives for these sorts of scuffs. But since it's ASMR, I was muting so that you didn't hear the chaos. I do apologize in advance for everybody who's trying to chill. I am a haggis, guys. I am a haggis. A haggis is a mythical creature from Scotland. We are 100% real, not mythical one. 100% real, not mythical at all. I don't know what you're talking about. We have both fur and feathers. Very cute. Yes. Yeah. So I apologize for the noise. Where were we? The fallen angel in life. And my real life describes it as a fairly boring show about a guy rambling on in front of the camera about how he must please Satan and appease him before it's too late. Paint with the soul. I am real life, and another user called Siggy92 were discussing the show. This described it as Blair Witch-like, as it consisted of the cameraman wandering around the forest at night, doing nothing particularly interesting. I'll go looking for a conversation and see if I can get the link. Question: where is Mr. Bear, or the guy who wore the costume? Answer: if I did know, I would have said earlier. I have no idea where this guy is, or if he's dead or alive. Hopefully dead. When I see my dad's friend next time, I will ask him about this. Maybe I can get more detailed answer. Hi, Kimchi Acid. Welcome in, welcome in. What did Mr. Bear do to the children? Answer: this is by far the most common question I've been asked. I found this out in October as well, via my dad's friend, who is a retired Caledon regional officer. Apparently the man played Mr. Bear, took the kids out of the house and into the forest nearby. What he did there, police are not exactly sure how it happened, but 16 charred bodies of children between the ages of 4 to 13 were found in a 15 by 15 foot ditch deep within the forest. My dad's friend did not want to go into exact details, but I'm seeing him next Thursday anyway, so maybe I can extort more information from him then. That's all I have for now. Thanks for keeping an interest in my blog. I will try to gather as much information as I can for my next post. I've actually been getting pretty interested in this myself. It should be my right to know what the hell happened. Update, January the 14th, 2010. I'm sorry I haven't posted anything in a while. I kind of lost interest in this blog since I had a standstill whilst looking for more information about the identity of the owner of Caledon Local 21. However, a few weeks ago I struck gold. I found some answers, surprisingly, from the father of a kid I used to babysit. He lives just across from my street, and he used to look after his kid when we were younger. Currently doesn't have a job either. He used to live near the woods outside Caledon and witnessed the owner's activities in the woods. His name is Anthony Polo. When he lived in a small bungalow outside the woods, he would often venture and smoke a joint of marijuana or two before returning to work as a woods craftsman. Paul described that sometimes he would hear voices of children coming from deep
event started in late 1997. Note, this is around the time that Kelton Local 21 began airing. He apparently became annoyed by this happening every once in a while and actually went to investigate. Paul then described what the whole scene looked like when he got there. There was a group of kids, he said about 13 to 17, and ages 5 to 12, gathered around a large fire pit with a burning fire. With them as with a single adult, Polo talked to the man. Nothing. His unusual unkempt appearance of a crack addict, as well as his constant twitching, and asked what he was doing out in the forest with children. The man said that they were on a camping trip, something they did frequently. Polo not suspecting anything. Calden was one of the lowest crime rates in Canada. Simply left it at that and told them to be quieter. Polo then paused for a while before telling the man that never became quieter. Paused for a while before telling me that they never became quieter. In fact, sometimes he heard loud chanting from the children in an unknown language. He didn't bother meeting with the man again. He said he was moving anyway. I told Polo that the man was probably the owner of Calden Local 21, but he doubted it, as he heard that the man was moving to Pickering by several. He was moving to Pickering by several other residents near that area. Here's what I know now. The man would take the kids into the woods regularly for camping. The fire pit Polo described may be the whole of the bodies of the children were found in. The children Polo saw are probably the ones found dead. And the man moved to a city called Pickering, a smaller city east of Toronto. I will discuss this with my dad's friend, the ex-cop, and see if it matches anything the police know about the man. I also want to see if he has any other knowledge of what was aired at Calden Local 21. Update, February the 10th, 2010. Good news, guys. I talked to my dad's friend, and he disclosed a lot of information for me. First, I asked if the police had any information on the man who ran Calden Local 21, and he replied that they have only had some leads for years and never found a suspect. However, the Peel regime police do have some of the tapes found in the house Calden Local 21 was broadcast from. He took me over, so I watched a few. I guess I haven't said much about him yet. My dad's friend's name is Mitchell Wilson, a pretty nice guy. He seemed to understand my thirst for knowledge on what happened during the late 90s in that house. He feels it was wrong that my dad went so long without telling me so much. He took me to the Davises Road police station. If you don't know, it's the largest station in Calden and one of the largest within the Peel region itself. Each of the main stations around Peel have some of the tapes. I was able to watch all of the footage that Davis Road station has. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take any of the tapes home for obvious reasons. Paint with the Soul, episode 10, Garbage Thrown Away. Paint with the Soul was one of the shows that I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 discussed on Nosekeeper. I told the police about this, and they informed me that 12 episodes of the show were made and broadcast between December 5, 1997 and January 8, 1998. Exactly as I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 described. The episode opened with a cameraman wandering around in a forest. It appeared to be during the evening, as it seemed that the sun was setting. The cameraman walked along a path until he got to an area where there was a lot of garbage laying in the leaves. The camera looked around at the various wrappers and bottles and bags and boxes, making sure each item got a few seconds of screen time. The camera then focused on a single area before the man spoke. I recall he spoke in a very timid, quiet voice, and I swear I've heard it somewhere else before, like in another Calden Local 21 show. I could barely hear what he was saying, but he mainly talked about how humans are garbage, or Something that had to do with saving ourselves by cleaning up the garbage. Us. It actually sounded really stupid, but still a feeling of dread came over me. I mean, that forest was possibly where those bodies were found, right? Mr. Bear's Cellar, episode 25. When the police administrator brought this tape in, I actually said, "Oh shit," and chuckled a bit out loud. Of course, I got stares from the staff, but Wilson explained to them about my little experience with Mr. Bear and how I still kept the letter he sent me. Like the previous episode, this one included a guy wearing a bear mascot costume. The episode began with Mr. Bear waddling over to his cellar door with a bottle of orange juice in his paws, and on the ground were 16 shot glasses, as well as a small bottle that contained an unknown liquid. Mr. Bear poured an equal amount of orange juice into each of the glasses before opening the smaller bottle and depositing one drop into the glasses. Mr. Bear then went off camera, and there were some minor sounds such as shuffling, and then Mr. Bear emerged from behind the camera's location. Following him were 16 children. Some looked as young as 4, while others looked like they were practically teenagers. As the children entered, the administrator commented that this is the only episode that showed all 16 victims. The kids all looked rather content, except for this one who had visible bruises on his face, and unlike the other kids, he had a more fearful expression. He also looked around 11-12, which caused me to recognize him. He was the kid who asked about his sister and subsequently met an unknown fate at the end of episode 23. That one episode I watched during July 1999. When I told the administrator this, he confirmed it was the same kid. He was also featured in episode 24, an episode that only aired once at 3 a.m. in July 1999. The police have still not found the tape. Mr. Bear then broke into song, singing about citrus fruits and how good vitamin C was for you. I could barely hear the lyrics as they were muffled by the bear mask. The kids all drank their juice, the one from episode 23 doing it rather reluctantly, and the episode ended. After viewing the tapes in possession of the Davis Road police station, I'm satisfied, but only temporarily. I still want to know the full story. The police just keep giving me the same crap about the creator of Calden Local 21 being a fetishist, pedophile, as well as an apparent cultist. I'll sign off for now and get into university first and get information later. Hopefully I'll get back to this blog as soon as possible. Update. May the 8th, 2010. Last month I finally got my G2 license in Ontario, Canada. This allows you to drive in a car by yourself as well, with some passengers after 6 months. I, of course, took advantage of this and drove to the Caledon for a little sunny drive. Since I haven't updated this blog in a while, I figured I might as well visit the house where the infamous channel of my childhood was located. The house looked different than when I last saw it in October. The place was no longer used as a daycare and just sat there abandoned. However, it did have a for sale sign showing that someone still owned it, wanting to get rid of it though. The abandoned house drew fuzzy memories from my mind, mainly of that day my dad took me to visit Mr. Bear. A feeling of dread came upon me. What happened to the children whilst they were living in that house? I walked up to the steps to see the front door and peered through the window inside. I could see a nearly empty hallway with a few boxes at the end. At the end of the hallway to the right was an open doorway, presumably leading to the kitchen. To the left were 2 doors, both apparently leading to the rooms visible through the windows outside. I wondered where the cellar entrance was located and whether it had been sealed up. I walked around to the back of the house and found my answer. 2 wooden doors, laying at an almost flat angle, were padlocked shut. This had to lead to the cellar.
not wanting to hang around. You cannot imagine what I was going through in my mind at that time. I departed. Behind the house, the empty field continued on until it reached a dense forest that lined the horizon. I wondered if that was the forest where the bodies of the children were found. I thought to myself, fuck it, and proceeded to walk across the field and behind the house into the forest. The forest was oddly quiet, save for the few periodic sounds of a woodpecker drilling into a distant tree. I cautiously made my way deeper into the woods, not really caring about the fact that I had no idea where I was going. I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like there was something I had to find. I came to a thinner part of the woods and a few small houses in the distance. Polo's house crossed my mind, and I wondered if one of those homes had belonged to him. I neared a small clearing in which I could see 3 adequately sized logs gathered around a black charred area, showing a small fire had been lit there recently. "Hey, get the fuck out of our fort!" Those words nearly gave me a heart attack. I turned to my left and saw 2 dark-clothed people running towards me. My initial thought was to run. However, as I came closer, I saw they were really just kids in their early teens, possibly 13 or 14, maybe even 12. As they approached me, they realized my size as well. I'm 6'1", and while they could have been no bigger than 5'8", one might have been 5'7". We said, "Get the fuck out!" The larger one, who was wearing a Slipknot shirt, said half-heartedly. I stood my ground and shrugged. The shorter one, who was wearing a Metallica shirt, swung out a butterfly knife and held it in my direction. "No, you won't want to," I said in a deep, serious tone, trying to sound as badass as possible. I pulled out my cell phone. 2 kids withdrew, one in a Metallica shirt putting away his knife. "Look, dude, we don't like people in our fort, so can you just, go?" The one in the Slipknot shirt said, obviously intimidated. I had no business in this forest anyway, so I uttered a simple "fine," and turned before I realized I had a great opportunity. "Did either of you hear of a guy who, murdered a bunch of kids in these woods about, 13 years ago?" I asked the kids. The 2 of them looked at each other in confusion, before the one wearing a Metallica shirt answered, "Yeah, everybody knows about that guy," he said to me, as if I was stupid. The kid in the Slipknot shirt continued, "He still lives around here, in the storm drain. My big brother's friend says he saw him in a bear costume once, wandering around the forest at night." My instincts told me this was probably a lie, and the owner of the Calden Local 21 is probably long gone, only existing as folklore in this smaller isolated community. However, as a human, the thought of the mysterious unknown sparks interest within. "And where is the storm drain?" I asked, just out of curiosity. I don't actually believe the kid's story. The kid in the Metallica shirt stared at me for a few moments, his eyes seemingly full of annoyance yet curiosity for me. "You're not from around here, are you? Why did you even come here?" Now, I do admit I was slightly startled by the nature of his question. However, I figured I might as well explain why I was there, just in case people mistook my intentions. I told the 2 kids about my experience with the man and Calden Local 21, and that I had to come to maybe seek out some sort of closure, although even I wasn't exactly sure why. Kids seemed familiar with the channel, and they smiled and looked at each other when I mentioned it. They also became more understanding and gave me a detailed description into how to get to the storm drain. Shortly after I decided to just turn around the way I came and head back to the house, leaving the kids at their fort. But now they're probably wondering why I left out such detail about what the kids told me just now. It is because I'm choosing to conclude what I have gathered now. Here is what the kids told me in detail.
A storm drain lies ahead of the kids' fort, the same direction I was heading. The drain ends in a small river where access water drained out. Near is a small playground. The kids told me the people rarely use it.
Hi, Sal. Welcome in.
The man supposedly lives there in a large pipe that rainwater drains out of. People have seen him, although always either wearing a bear mask or the mask in a full bear costume. Note, I do not believe this is true, and in fact simply a myth made by the residents of Calden. The story does not seem plausible in any way. Why did no one call the police? Did this guy look suspicious? And other questions like these leave the story invalid. I may visit the storm drain. Not because I believe the story, but because I want an excuse to visit Calden again. So this blog doesn't die. With no more tapes to watch, I don't know what to talk about anymore. And thanks for continuing to support me and my blog. I know many are looking forward to more information about what happened in Calden during the year 1999, and I will do my best to continue my research into the topic. Elliot out. Update. October the 7th, 2010. Well, nearly 5 months since I last updated. I'm guessing everyone's pretty much thinks I was dead, right? Thankfully I'm not. But in all my seriousness, I really have been busy these past few months. And a blog about something that could have killed me as a kid is a little low on my current priorities list. As of now, I'm living in Waterloo, Ontario, attending the University of Waterloo for computer engineering. Yeah, I'm a keener. As you can imagine, engineering is no walk in the park, so obviously I nearly forgot about this blog. But as you can see now, I am back. Remember to visit the storm drain the kids from the Calden forest told me about. It was out in the clearing between the wooded areas, nearby a marsh. Unfortunately, I found absolutely nothing, save for a turtle that retreated into its built-in home when it saw me. I snapped some pics of the pipe, which I have posted as well. Also, let me tell you, it is not a storm drain like they said it was. What I saw was a simple pipe, possibly to channel the excess water from the marsh. When I returned to the Calden, however, I simply kept putting off uploading everything until I forget all about my blog. I just didn't seem important anymore. Please forgive me. It wasn't until only recently that I am now interested in my case again. On September the 10th, I received an email from this email address. Return the bee at hotmail.com. Funny, am I right? Well, it gets better. I'm going to copy and paste the exact email this guy sent me. Dear Elliot, my dear boy, you see, the story may or may not be true, but it could happen. There are many slots for airtime. If you have money, you can have a public access TV channel. Some public access TV channels share airtime, like EWTN, religious channels based out of Michigan. That shows Catholic-based programming. During off-air hours has independent shows or just blue screen. Cable networks have empty channels available for rent space. So the scenario of a pedo renting a channel on basic TV is not far-fetched at all. However, public access TV is widely reviewed and can be terminated at any time. These are the rules for the United States, not for Canada, where this story took place. So if this happened in the US, the pedo would be tracked and arrested immediately. Yes, the story could happen, but it's unlikely. 100 fuzzy hugs, Mr. Bear. Now, obviously, this letter is fake and sounds almost corrupted, but still, I would like to thank whoever sent it. Though they could use some English lessons. Just reading this letter creeped me out. But because of it, I'm now full of this new interest to continue my blog. I guess it's just funny trying to pursue the mysteries I've always questioned. Now my roommate knows about all of this. He thought the letter was real and actually seemed more scared than I was for a second. But then I shrugged it off, and so he did too. I mean, what are the chances of this being real? How would Mr. Bear know all this about public access TV and about when I went to Calvin on those occasions? More or less, know my email or me, still be interested in his seller half. I'm going to send a reply to the return the bee. Wow, just looking at the email address, you could tell someone wanted to freak me out. It didn't really work though. Although to whomever you are, thank you for sparking my interest back into the full matter. Maybe I can find out more about what happened to Mr. Bear. Hopefully, because although I didn't buy that email, a part of me still feels anxious. Thank you to all of those who are still following me and have become avid fans. You're also why I'm choosing to continue this. Thank you guys. Update November the 7th, 2010. Wow, I can't believe this blog hasn't been deleted yet. I haven't posted anything for so long. I have my reasons, and I'd rather not discuss them just yet. It has been a rather traumatic year for me. Some of you were right. I shouldn't have gone back trying to relive the mysteries of my childhood, but I couldn't resist it. It had been over a year since my last post and a lot has happened. Let's recap where I'm at right now with regards to the whole Mr. Bear incident. returnthebee@hotmail.com is no longer in use. I tried replying to the email, but I got no reply. Tried again a while back and still no response. I've actually moved up to Ottawa, the capital of Canada for those who don't know, for university, so I haven't been back to Caledon or back home in the Peel region for a while. I had my reasons for leaving, as you could guess why. I've had to make a new email account because people keep prank mailing me to pretend to be Mr. Bear. Thanks a lot, guys. Not. Why have I ventured back to this blog? Mitchell Wilson, remember my dad's ex-cop friend, gave me a phone call on October the 23rd about a tape that was found in a branch of the Brampton Public Library. Brampton is my hometown, in case you haven't picked up on that. He claims he isn't allowed to discuss the contents of the tape with me, as it's still in evidence, but he asked me to come check it out when I return home. That tape got the gears grinding again, because we all know what was on that last tape that I saw. I can only imagine what could be on it. I'm guessing it must have something to do with Caledon Local 21. Hi, welcome in. I guess I just wanted to say I'm continuing this blog and thank you for everyone who still follows it. I don't know when my next entry will be, but when I see that tape, I'll write what I find. I don't know what to expect, but the idea of seeing another tape has gotten me interested in this whole mystery all over again. Elliot. Update, January 21st, 2011. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, you know, Parmag is gone. It has been a long year for me. University has been giving me the usual sleepless nights, especially since I transferred to Ottawa, which is the place to party. Sarcasm. But now I'm back home with my dad in Brampton, the town I grew up in. I got home on the 18th of December and have been visiting with friends and family, or at least that's what I would rather have done. Now that the festive holiday cheer that I usually have at this time of the month is absent. To answer the hundreds of emails and comments I got, yes, I did see the tape that my dad's friend Mitchell Wilson promised to show me. These tapes, however, act as a curse. I want to more, yet I want to forget everything. I couldn't help it. I needed to see those tapes. Not only for myself, but for all of you guys who are just as intrigued as I am, but by that ominous man in the bear suit from the past. However, after viewing those tapes, I feel in a pit of dread deep inside me. Once again, that feeling where I know that all of those kids in those videos are dead. That I could have been one of those kids, and that humanity is a dark place. If you haven't skipped this paragraph or the juicier details below, thank you for listening to my rambling. On January the 1st, I called Mitchell Wilson and asked if there was a time where I could come by and view the tapes. Things there were pretty slow at the station because of the snowstorm, so he said I could come down any time that day. Tapes were located at a branch not too far from me, so I braved the slushy roads and terrible Brampton drivers and made my way to the Peel Regional Police Station located at the Brahmania City Centre. I met Wilson at the front desk, where he led me up to the second floor and into a small office. He instructed me to have a seat and wait while he went and got the tapes. Before leaving the office, he turned to me and said, "I know you're curious, but are you sure you want to do this?" Of course I did, or at least I thought so. Besides, Wilson's friends had pulled a lot of strings to get me in there, and I didn't want to waste the opportunity. This particular station had 2 tapes on hand. I was only able to watch a few minutes of footage, however, because the second tape was apparently too damaged to be played on a VCR. Mr. Bear's Cellar, episode 30. Mr. Bear never ceases to disturb me, especially after what almost happened when I was younger. This episode took place outside in a forest at dusk, making it slightly hard to see, especially considering the quality of the film. Trademark of anything from Calden Local 21. The episode started with the camera being held in the paws of Mr. Bear, aiming it at himself. The bear mask looked more sinister in the shadows of the trees. The unmistakable muffled voice spoke up. "Hello, children. Today I will be doing a wonderful thing with my friends. I will be delivering them to a faraway land where they will surely be happy." Mr. Bear turned the camera around to show an ATV with an attached trailer, but what stood out most was that the trailer contained 7 motionless children lying inside, side by side. This here is the first load, but more will be on their way soon. Mr. Bear turned around and pointed the camera at the large burlap tarp spread on the ground. He picked up the tarp, and revealing a large hole, he must have been at least 12 feet deep and maybe about 15 feet wide. The rest of the episode consisted of Mr. Bear taking each kid and dropping them into the hole. I asked Wilson if they were dead, to which he shook his head and replied, "Not yet." No, the kids were in the pit. Some were in awkward positions due to being tossed in, but they remained unconscious. The vitamin C will surely help these children on their great journey that awaits them, Mr. Bear mentioned, as he panned the camera towards multiple bottles of gasoline besides a bush. The camera zoomed into the bottles as Mr. Bear hummed before the episode ended. Wilson revealed to me that those were 7 of the 16 victims found burnt to a crisp. The gasoline is what the man playing Mr. Bear used to light them on fire. A pit full of burning children. Who the fuck would do that? A feeling of dread found me once again when I realized that I could have been one of those kids. Wilson then explained to me that he had previously lied. The other tape confiscated by Bramelia Police Branch did indeed work and contained the filming of the actual burning. However, he felt that I wouldn't be able to handle the disturbing and graphic nature of the episode. And you know what? maybe I can't. I don't even want to see it. I'm satisfied for now. But I just need some time to get myself together. The thing is, the man who ran Calden Local 21 is still out there. More to come soon. Elliot. It says INRI. I don't know what INRI stands for. Sorry. But it kind of looks like another email or like a letter of some sort. Once upon a time, there lived a boy named Elliot. Elliot was a clever boy who loved playing with his friends. One day, he watched a lovely television show about a bear and his children friends. The children loved helping each other as good children should, but they also loved the bear. The bear loved the children, since the children were so good at helping him and the fallen angel. The children and the bear wanted to play together forever, with the help of their angel friend. But the fallen angel needed even more help, so the children had to give the ultimate sacrifice, because that's what friends do. Elliot, they help each other. Help us, Elliot. Burn with us, Elliot. I want you, Elliot. He wants you, Elliot. Come back to my cellar. Pretty please. With sugary icing on top. Mr. B. INRI Latin. Translated to Jesus of Nazareth, King of Jews. Ooh. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. INRI again. Update April 5th, 2011. I wanted to update more, I truly did. However, certain circumstances had turned me off the whole Calden Local 21 thing. I've since then had hundreds of emails about my blog and was even in contact with a magazine about my story. But now is the time to come clean to everyone where I have been for an entire year. The story of Pandora's box is true, and I opened it. I opened it when I watched the second tape and in the possession of the Balmoral police branch. The other subject I'd like to address is the number of fake emails I've been getting from people claiming to be Mr. Bear. Let's start with the second tape, as that is what traumatized me into stopping my search temporarily. After a few weeks of playing silent, I decided to ask Mitchell Wilson if I could view the infamous second tape that he had talked about. I don't know why. I just felt that viewing that tape would have given me some closure. Wilson was obviously reluctant to show me, but I was persistent. He gave me an offer. If I was still interested by the time I turned 20, he would show me the tape. Not being able to do much else, I just played the waiting game. By the time my 20th birthday rolled around, I was definitely still interested in viewing that tape. I gave Wilson a call, during which he admitted that he had hoped that I would forget about asking him again. I was not taking no for an answer. You really don't need to see it, he kept telling me. But I did need to see it. I had to at this point. Sure enough, he invited me to the Bramalilla branch on Monday afternoon. Having watched every Saw film and video of animal slaughterhouses in my ethics class, I was sure I'd be able to handle whatever the tape could throw at me. How naive I was. Mr. Beer's Cellar, episode 31. When Wilson went to collect the tape from evidence, the officer in charge of the evidence room shook his head at me, his face saying, "What are you doing?" Wilson explained that this tape includes the last known episode of Mr. Beer's Cellar. I rightfully assumed that I'd be seeing the fate of the children and began to feel a sense of dread. The episode opened inside a forest, the usual one from the previous episodes. This fact took me a while to realize, because it was night and the trees and leaves just looked like shapes dancing around in the darkness. A faint glow of the light was present on the right side of the screen. There wasn't any apparent audio. It appeared to be a windy night. The trees weren't making any noise. Slowly the camera began to pan towards the glow, revealing smoke rising from a hole, with the tips of the flames peeking over the top. Wilson paused at this point. "Are you sure you want to see this?" he asked me, and I insisted on it. Even though a voice in my head was telling me not to, the video continued, and the cameraman moved towards the hole, showing a pit of fire. This is the hole that I had seen in the previous episode. Only this time it was filled with shapes. I could see shapes moving around and fluttering and flailing, some motionless. I knew perfectly well what they were. The camera began to adjust in the light, and burning flesh, red, black, a blur of surreal movement and colours. I wish I could forget what I saw, but you can't forget a scene like this. This was not a horror movie, this was reality. Human beings were being killed in a horrifying way, a fate that I could have potentially met. The video suddenly cut down, the camera now positioned further away from the hole. The fire was out, however, there was still smoke rising up. A figure was up ahead. I recognized it right away. Mr. Bear's suit was laid out on the ground, empty. It looked just unnerving. So it was laid out in the shape of a cross. Cameraman did a lap around the suit, treating it like a treasured artifact. Placing it at the head of the suit was a sign. In bold red letters, INRI was painted. Cameraman moved back to the end of the suit, zooming in at the bear's face. The episode finally ended. I was speechless. It was like a dream. Can find a lot of terrible things on the internet, but I had never seen anything like this. Wilson asked if I was okay, and I replied with a shaky yes. I assured him as we left that I was fine, and that the video gave me some closure over the whole incident. He didn't seem too confident in me, but he left it at that. He was right, though. Had nightmares for weeks. I gave up. I didn't care about the whole thing anymore. A sick man burned a bunch of kids alive, attracting them with a fake kids TV channel. I have been one of his victims, yet I'm still here. I suppose I should be grateful, but I feel guilty. Am I still here only by pure luck? 10 months later, I'm back, but now I need to address something else. My email has been flooded with messages. Some people ask for more details, some ask if I can upload the tapes, and some people email me claiming to be Mr. Bear. First, I cannot get the tapes uploaded as they're A, in police possession as evidence, and B, I have no idea how to transfer VHS to a computer. As for people pretending to be Mr. Bear, you're not fooling me. When you have dozens of people pretending to be the same person, it doesn't work. I've even seen a fake Calden Local 21 YouTube channel, which is cute, but still not real. Even more annoying is the fact that someone hacked my account just to put up some demented poem about me on this blog. I'll leave it in the entry above this one, just to show you guys. I have contacted my webmaster about the entry and was told that it was posted on Halloween. Ooh, spoopy. Attached to the email, paintwithb@aol.com. Paint with B at aol.com, which I used him as another joke email. I'm over episode 31 now. The images of what I saw will stick with me for a while, but I want to do one last hurrah. I will get into contact with Mitchell Wilson again and hopefully get set up with the tapes in his possession of the other Peel police branches. I'll try to update you guys as soon as I can. I'm sure this won't take so long again. Thank you to everyone who still reads this. Elliot.
Oh, wait, it's done. Oh. It's done. The rest is just extra little tidbits. Oh, that's spoopy. Oh my goodness. That was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. I was spoopy. I was. I'm kind of shook that it stopped. I'm thankful for my throat, but I'm shook that it stopped. It was spoopy. Oh, I like that. Somebody's so good. Thank you. Do we have another short one? I'm thinking of another like 3-minute one or something to do this. Yeah. It is. We'll have to do some more creepypasta readings. I really enjoyed them. I want to do one more. Can you short by like... Like you can sort by word count, I don't think. It's a classic, yeah. I don't usually use Creepypasta, the website, you see. I usually listen to other people who read it to me. I have a zombie story that's like 4-minute read. Oh, that would be good. If you could send me that link, I would really appreciate that. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. It's been lots of fun. Also, I need to tell you, one of my friends got me a crochet hook for my birthday. I posted it on Twitter. It's so cute. But also, they also got me a little jar from my throne that says drugs on it. And it came today, and I put my drugs in my drugs jar. It's so cute. Listen, when I open it. Ooh, nice smell. When I open it, it smells delicious. Satisfying. It's really nice. It actually came with a couple of stickers as well. There is one that says Pothead on it, and it's a teapot, and one that says Blazed, and it's in the Barbie logo. So I put them on my, because I put stickers on my desk, and I like it. I put them there. Okay, Persuaded. This will be the last one for tonight. It's been 2 weeks since this whole thing started. It all started with a tanker accident. It was all over the news. Everyone thought it was just another oil spill. There were plenty of volunteers, plenty of people wanting to help the poor defenseless animals, plenty of victims. Within hours of the tanker accident, it started happening. The animals had gone crazy. They were scratching and biting the cleanup volunteers. They said that it was an adverse effect of whatever was in the tanker. Rescue workers were still trying to get the crew out of the ship. Rescue workers were still trying to get the crew out of the ship. They could hear screaming inside, screams to open the doors. But that's when it all went to hell. As soon as they cut the door out, there were 6 minutes of broadcast before it all went silent. 6 minutes of screaming and agony. The ship crew attacked the rescue workers. The rabid baboons, breaking bones and tearing flesh. The people on the shores weren't faring any better. Those that had been attacked by animals were attacking everyone else. It was worse than any war zone report. It was sheer brutality, and yet the broadcast still went on for 6 minutes. 6 minutes, and then blank faces. Nobody could explain what was happening. They tried to continue with regular news, the economy, the weather, a cute human interest story, but they couldn't make us unsee what we saw. I tried to continue with my regular existence, but every time I switched on the news or walked by a newsstand, it was there. A big mystery. There's some explanation, some kind of infection, brain parasites, but it didn't matter. It wasn't an infection we were afraid of. It was them. 4 days after the initial report, a state of emergency was raised, and we'd all seen this before. Every zombie movie. People didn't know who to trust. People were stockpiling food and weapons. Some tried to flee, but it seemed every zombie movie was right. I didn't make it. 3 days later, they arrived in my town. Unexpected moans, shuffling corpses, dismemberment, but that's where the movies lied. They ran through the streets screaming. I remember running to my front door as fast as I could, locking, barricading, doing anything to make sure it would stay shut, and then I headed for the window. It was on the 2nd story, and I could see the carnage. They were unstoppable. They were aware. A group of them made their way through the buildings across the street. They jumped straight through the plate glass windows. Even the shards slicing through them made no difference. They just kept coming, and the barricade wasn't going to hold. I rushed around my flat, grabbing supplies and jamming them into the most secure room in the flat. Went back for one last look across the street, and I wish I hadn't. In a 2nd story window, my face met one of theirs. They knew where I was. I quickly dashed into the room and locked the door. I didn't have any kind of panic room or a secure basement, so the safest place I could think of was my bathroom. No windows, no other door with a lock. I'd filled my sink and bathtub full of water, so I could stay for a while. So I sat there in the dark room, distant screams in my ears. I began to feel like I may have overreacted. It had been 2 hours and no sign of them. I actually got quieter, and I thought they had moved on. Maybe I could leave the room, get to the kitchen, grab more food, or to wait it out. A crash came from the front door. Sound of someone running full force into the door, with knocking down the barrier behind it. There was a couple more crashes before I knew that they were inside. Rapid footsteps moving around the flat, a couple of screams, and then a bang on the wall and beside me. My eyes were open to their widest, even in the pitch black darkness of the room. Another bang and another. They knew I was there. They knew I was scared. This was the zombie nightmare that I had been expecting from the start. I had nowhere to run. There was only so much time before they would break in. I sat with my back to the door, hoping my extra weight would make it harder for them to get in, and then it got worse. "Why don't you open the door?" A voice on the opposite side of the door. No screaming or moans, just a quiet, whispery voice, and then more of them. "We've come for you. You'll be happier if you open the door. It's not so bad." Those very voices became a cacophony of noise, trying to persuade me, to break me, to fool me. I had heard that the moaning of zombies would drive people insane, but this was worse. A siren call. I sat in the darkness and hoped and prayed that they'd get bored, but they don't get bored, and they don't leave. I managed to use the mirror to peek under the door, only to be greeted by horrible, unblinking eyes, blood-smeared faces, screams, and more horrible whispers. That was 2 days ago. I don't know what to do anymore. Maybe it won't be so bad. No. spoopy. Ooh. I was persuaded by Chris Stewart, and it was a very, very, very delicious pasta. Very yummy indeed. Oh my goodness. I was so spoopy. I was so spoopy. Zombies can be scary. Well, then Ape-chan is going to have to protect Agus tonight. Yeah, I'm going to be scared. I'm always left to sleep alone. I don't want to sleep alone anymore. Oh, I spooked myself so much. Oh. Ape-chan, will you guys keep me safe? Will you hold me tonight when I try sleep? Oh. Zombie apocalypse where the zombies can talk. Yeah, it's terrifying. Spoopy, spoopy, spoopy. I know, thank you so much. All those creepypastas, they were suggested by Jelly, actually. They're all very good. There's one that I want to do, but it's a very long series. I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. That's one of my favorites. But obviously not today. Thank you so much for all your follows, guys. You've been so sweet. I really appreciated all your new faces popping in. I try and do ASMR every couple of weeks. I used to do it once a month, but you guys really like it. So try and do it every fortnight. Glad you liked them. I really liked them. The slow time one was crazy. That was how it annoyed me. It was winding me up like, come on, I want to help you. You can live. It's okay. You really shouldn't have taken an Ambien. Taking an Ambien is where you went wrong. Ooh, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. Now part of my Haggis clan. Yeah, for all the new people out there, hello, my name is Isla Morag. And yeah, have you ever sneezed and sharted at the same time? No. I don't poop. I'm a girl. Girls don't poop. Only boys poop. I burp. Let's find somebody quiet and comfy that we can go into. Let me take you into Le Fleur. They look cute. They're doing a storybook as well. So after going from some creepypastas, you guys can go nice too. Or not. I think they are just finishing. Yep, they literally just finished. They literally just finished. Thank you for streaming. Thank you guys. I'll be tomorrow with Pal World. I wasn't able to. I was struggling so hard getting my mic to work today, but I got it working. But tomorrow I'll be here at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. See? Oh, I don't have it here. Oh well. I'll be here at 3 in the afternoon. BST. 15 p.m. BST with some Pal World. That's gonna be fun. Hi Benedetto Marcello. Let's find here's someone. Good night, good night, good night, Kimchi. Let me take you over to Bunny. Mini Bunny SMR. They look like they're having fun, giving kisses on cam. Yeah. So let's go give them some love. Take care, my lovelies. I hope to see you all again tomorrow. And remember, hako lago morsht. Waihava. Achiri bye. Bye bye.